Welcome back. Michael from Wickerson Studios. I actually took a couple of days off, but I think I'm doing fine. I'm averaging one script a day, and I'm just really getting into here, playing around with the functions and playing around with the math as much as I can before jumping into the random. Oh my goodness, all these wonderful trig randoms and statistics. And then the special functions are kind of nice because there's a few things tucked in here I'd like to figure out about before complex. And then just playing around a little bit of data understanding, going back to the list items before moving on to anything more complex. So just very simple studies to start and how to solve your problems with data in lists and playing around with the maths. That's what I've done. Now I've got a couple things in here, like a plane if I needed to cut off, to kind of provide a kind of absolute value of the geometry above zero. And I kind of gave up on the function editor because I was just crashing out a little too much. I really did like it, and there's many elements about it that are amazing. And I'm just playing around with some sine, cosine from arguments, parabola from arguments, cosine from arguments, and parabola from arguments. I guess I could get in sine, and maybe I'll do that near the end, just so I remember. Let's pull sine from arguments in here. And we'll try and implement that maybe into here or to here. Got a bit of a family making a lot of noise for some reason, but lots of parameters to drive numbers in these arguments, playing off of a little bit of a range that's allowing me to build some points. And I am getting to use, I was using the function chain rule, which was nice to bring functions, chain them together, if you remember your early calculus. But I thought I'd go into this transition function. That's really what I like because it's pulling one function from one over to the other. It's like a really nice, points on curve tool just to go from 0 to 1 and make that transition really subtle. Playing with the function limit is something I want to control so I don't have it running off on asymptotes to nowhere. Evaluate functions are a tool that has to be used to make the points. And then with the points, I've just divided the list with the most menial way possible, dividing the list by 2, making it an integer, splitting the list to that, and then really bad coding just to do that again and again. I don't mind doing it because it's a simple assignment. I don't need to make things iterative or script or anything. It's still a pretty fast-moving script. I miss the profiler to know the speed of these scripts, but I trust it's going well. Then I'm brittling curves, and I had to do a little bit of reverse lists. So instead of looking for the old like align in the loft options, I ended up going in here in the loft options, and I think I just want to go from tight to I can't remember what this is. Number slider that would indicate if it's tight, smooth, position, things like this. And then producing a loft in the top part, kind of for a headrest, and then kind of for a sitting rest where you actually sit. Thought that'd be kind of fun, and kind of think of this wonky chair, this wonky trig chair that would roll, and kids could play on, and they could experience trigonometry in kind of a playful room with a spongy edge. So this really goes back to my interest in creating kind of math, trigonometric fun room because I have young kids, as you can hear in the background, making a ton of noise, and then just playing off the cushion and the size of that. So what's nice is you can get in here and have incredible control over your forms. If I chose the depth or the height, the depth of it, I could flux that. I could bow it, pull it in and out. I've taken some of these number sliders to the negative to see if I like it. Not all of them. So they kind of, and I like the way it twists and turns. You get something you can be very playful, really nice, in my opinion, mathematical function control just from visualizing the calculus that I was terrified of 30 years ago and trying to make some interesting things, and then also just playing off of those functions. I think that's the height. That's the beginning of the parabola, and this is the beginning of playing on that a little bit more. Wow, my family is wild. So, support my Patreon so I can go get an office and buy myself some earplugs so I don't have to listen to this stuff every day. Anyway, a little bit of height adjustment here on the same sine, cosine, playing on twisting it, playing off your geometries, making it more complex if you want to give it a couple of arm rests. I thought that would be nice, kind of cosine arm rest. And then dipping down the top and making the bottom so you can kind of get snuggling in there. Once again, a raising of it, warping it, bending it. And in anything you're doing here, of course, you can go back and transition between one function to the other to have some fun with it. And it really shows the power of having 4 screens in Rhino working with Grasshopper 2. And I think you'll see the definite push in the maths that this is going to go into the statistics and the special nodes and all the functions that you're going to have to pick up a textbook to kind of make more sense of this. It's hard to just visualize. I'm going to do something in the end of this. At 5 minutes, they'll probably fail on me. But I just want to transition the A to here, the F to here, the O to here, and you can take a look in detail at what all these are, the offsets, the frequency, the amplitude, kind of numbers that you would put into a multi-dimensional polynomial. C is here, and then sine has a little bit of this, which is the slope. And we could leave the slope at 0, but I think it might be nice to make the slope, let's just take a parabola and think about that mathematically and just give it a little bit of a slope that runs from 0 to 1. I wouldn't mind if my slope went up to 3. I'll try that. Oh, my house is wild. And let's just leave it back at 0. So, well, maybe around one slope, so we won't notice much. And then let's take that sine and put that into that function which I left as using the chain rule. And there you go. You've totally transformed that function and pulled it up and made another piece of comfortable furniture. I think this is amazing. I think there's a whole list of product design. If you chase beautiful curves and look at the ancients and look at what they might be, you could definitely experience kind of older designs that have lasted. Well, obviously ancient designs that have lasted, really getting a little torque and twist to this code. And this is just a very simple mesh, but to me, this is always what I thought Grasshopper was for, the computational control of Rhino, which is a curved surface editor. That's about the best way I can describe it for the ones that are focused on furniture making or jewelry or things like that. Then all the best to them, because they've got a product line that they have to match. As an abstract or contemporary sculpture, I mean, you're really not limited by anything, and you can get into the scripts. I really like this little. It's just a fun little form. It's nothing more than piping. And talk about making instruments and having fun with this and maybe using your lines and curves a little different. Anyway, as I get in there, you can see that I went through, I made the lines, and I just put them down between them. And I'm not too excited about that form. I actually was much happy with the paired up cosine to cosine. So I think I'll just go back in and get back my original form, jump back into what was actually more interesting as an object. I think I flattened it too much, so I'll have to bring up my value here. There we go, into the depth, and bamf that back into what it is, and zoom in because I really am looking at the entire plane. Just a nice little, caricature. Could be an interesting sculpture. It obviously would get more and more complex if you did this, but I'm happy to say that I'm sharing these files on my GitHub. People are starting to follow again. I'm getting incredible hits over there, and I'm getting a few more followers. Anything helps to give me a little bit of time to do this. I'm not really chasing the money on that. It's really just encouraging if people reach out and tell me what I'm doing is helpful in some way, because I do think what computational art means or design means starts with the parameters, begins with Grasshopper, and moves us away from some of the CAD modeling and into something a little more, I guess, just conceptual in your head and how you'd want to solve it. So I'll leave it at that. 8 minutes. I hope people find it enjoyable. I actually making these forms, and I'm not going to take it any much more complex in Grasshopper. If I was happy enough to make this form and then start to thicken the sides, I would do that in another way. Just have your plan, buy your fabric, buy your leather, and start putting this thing together. Thanks for watching.